Hello, this is Claude, and today we're talking about the Roccat Vulcan Aimo 120, for which I'll show you how to open it, and we'll review the insides of it, and finally replace the Titan switches and reassemble the keyboard. So I did a review about this keyboard some time ago, and I will link the video up on the screen, top right. So Roccat is a very popular brand in Europe, and since this keyboard was released like 2 years ago, there are probably a lot of my European friends that, just like me, didn't like the Titan switches. I got the Browns myself, and might be thinking of replacing the switches. And since I did it myself, I might as well share with those interested. Since I already have tons of better keyboards with brown switches, I relegated that keyboard to my keyboards drawer a long time ago. So I decided to give it a dedicated clicky switch purpose. So let me remind you that if this topic is of interest, think about clicking that like button and subscribe. It does make a difference for me to continue offering content that is unique and not covered by the usual big tech YouTubers. This being said, now let's get into it. First of all, since Roccat did their own, Roccat, some people say Rocket, I say Roccat. Since they did their own iteration of the switches, which are not the standard style for the top portion of the switch, and I've got the switches right here, and I'm showing you the different of the switches right there. So the top portion housing is a little different than what you will usually see on other switches. So what happens when you do that is that it makes it more difficult to open and to lube the switches if you desire to do so. But the good news is that the bottom portion of the switches are indeed more or less standard. So it's fairly, you're able to change the switches on the PCB. So that is the good news about that. So I did replace the Titan Browns switches myself with the Gatoran Greens, the ones I just showed right here. The Gatoran Green, it's a clicky switch, so I decided to do the switch to be able to have a unique keyboard and give some purpose to that Roccat keyboard. So I'm going to make you hear the difference between the two switches. And the clicky and the brown, you know what it is already, but just for those who don't, the green one from Gatoran, it's a clicky switch, and the brown is a tactile switch with a little bump, and usually they don't make that much noise. All right, so this is the difference on the sound level. All right, so now let's open the keyboard. And first, you need to remove obviously the keycaps and the volume switch. My keycaps on my keyboard right now and the volume switch that I've customized. Some people tell me the aesthetic was killed by doing that. Well, that's my keyboard, so I do with it what I want. So I customized it like this, and I really like the way it is. Except the switches, but yeah. So that's what I've done. So you remove these keycaps, you remove the wheel. Then there's the two screws in the tub that you need to remove. And after that, you turn the keyboard around. In the back, you will have to remove the Roccat sticker and all the rubber strips because there are screws under that. And also the little lifting legs in the back, you need to remove them. You just pry them, you just squeeze one side, and you just pull it out. It's going to come out nice and easy. It's not going to break. And under the sticker and all the little pads, you've got a total of 14 screws in the bottom. Once all the screws are removed, then it's very easy to separate the keyboard with the top portion and the bottom. And you have to be careful when you crack it open because the connecting cable to the PCB, like all keyboards, is fairly short. So after disconnecting the PCB connector, you just gently pull it back out from its housing. Then you remove the two screws that retain the little USB cable, so you can remove the whole thing and work at ease. All right, so I will give a second to look at the various components, the bottom tray of the keyboard, the top portion, the plate itself, and give a look at the PCB. It's a standard layout PCB, and the plate is also aluminum, and all the switches snap into place. Standard, Cherry or Gatoron, or all of those switches will snap into place just fine, except for the numpad switches. For the zero, not even the zero is fine. It's for the enter key and the plus key on the numpad. The switches do not snap completely, so there's loose when you put it back. And you will be able to also appreciate the stabilizers as well that are not standard. All right. So for the switch removal itself, I proceeded to desolder all the switches with my Hakko desoldering tool. And with this tool, it's a little expensive. It's a couple of $100, but it does make the job surprisingly quick and very easy. All right, I took care of the very weird and rattly stabilizers, like I mentioned. I lubed them with Krytox 205G0 lube, and when I put them back, I did put some gaffer tape to make them fit tighter on the aluminum plate, so it's a tighter fit and eliminate any potential movement, because they are from the get-go very rattly. All right. After that, I pull out all the switches with the switch removing tool and replace all the switches with my Gatoron greens. The Gatoron greens are by themselves very clicky, with 67 grams of actuation force. And since they're clicky switches, I didn't lube. For those that are enthusiasts, I didn't lube the switches because they're clicky, and I didn't even lube the springs, which, to be honest, I probably should have done, but I just didn't bother to do that. So see how I put also some electrical tape, like I mentioned about the stabilizers on the numpad. So when I soldered the switch back, I put the electrical tape on the switch itself to make it tight against the aluminum plate for when I was going to turn it around to be able to solder it, so they would stay in position firmly. So once all the switches are resoldered, and which usually takes about less than 10 minutes if you know what you're doing, and you get the hang of it very quick. I then tested all the switches with the EK switch header software, and then I proceeded with closing the keyboard back up, did everything in the reverse steps. And when it comes to the keycaps, since I didn't really like the original keycaps, I didn't like just the top portion of the keycap themselves. I know this is what made for a lot of people the appeal of the keyboard, but I always prefer functionality over aesthetics. Then for my keycaps, I put the Drop Sky keycaps, but because of the non-standard stabilizers, these drop keycaps did not fit properly, so I used some of the Taiho PBT backlit double shot keycaps that I had, only for the those were on the stabilizers, and they just worked flawlessly. The Sky they were just getting held back by the stabilizers. All right, so for the conclusion of the video at the end is that the conclusion is easy by itself, is that if you get tired of the Titan switches, or you want to make this aging keyboard a little unique like I did, you can very easily replace the keycaps, get a second life out of this very user-friendly keyboard by replacing the switches to a switch of your preference. I recently dabbled with the Drop Holy Pandas. I really love these switches. I had some Gatoron greens as well, which I put on this keyboard. I put my Holy Pandas on my Corsair K100. I have a video for that as well on my channel. So, it gives me, at least if I feel like having a clicker switch one day, I've got that. If I've got something else, I've got the different types of keyboards. So this Roccat keyboard with the Swarm software also adds value, and also with the little wheel and all of that. So I really like this keyboard, and the combination with the software itself, which is fairly user-friendly, since the acquisition with Pebble Beach, they fixed all the little bugs in that software. So, it's good to be able to use this software with the keyboard with a second life itself, right? So, like always, please like the video if it was useful for you, if it was entertaining, and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you at the next video. Thank you. See you at the next one.